Welcome to Sports Beat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Friday, February 12th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. We're talking college basketball on today's show, Mizzou with Souichi Terada, and Kansas with Gary Bedore and Jesse Newell. The regular season is winding down. Both teams are NCAA Tournament bound, but both are looking for a bit more consistency as March Madness approaches. We talk about what's going right for both programs and what can be fixed over the final couple of weeks of the regular season. We'll get started talking to Souichi about the Missouri Tigers. Okay, Souichi, if we had recorded this earlier in the week, we'd have been giddy over the Tigers' performances against Kentucky and Alabama, but because we're recording this on Thursday, the day after Missouri's loss at Ole Miss, that look, it's still a great season, and Missouri's still going to be ranked when the polls come out, and there's still plenty of victory opportunities on the schedule for the Tigers. But what a disappointing loss they had at Oxford. And what is it about the state of Mississippi that just confounds the Tigers?
Yeah, I don't know, Blair. I'm really hoping, crossing my fingers for everyone involved, that they don't have a COVID-19 outbreak, because that's essentially what happened the last couple of times, including the football team. The football team, obviously, Music City Bowl was canceled because of a COVID-19 outbreak stemming from the Mississippi State trip. And then right after the Mizzou basketball team comes back from Starkville, they have a 10-day COVID pause. So we'll cross our fingers there. But yeah, it's just disappointing game, kind of surprising too. I think Conzo doesn't necessarily pull out shots or anything out of the media, but he was pretty. He had all of that last time when we talked to him, and the question I asked actually, I asked about rebounding, just because the rebounding margin is a big thing for Conzo Martin, but also this is kind of partly because you don't have as many rebounding opportunities, obviously, when the other team is making all their shots like Mississippi did last night. And so I asked about him, and Conzo pretty much said, and I'll just read this verbatim from my analysis from last night. He said, some guys just didn't give it tonight. Some guys didn't show up, and you don't really hear that from Conzo Martin. I think that's kind of a surprising note, I think, for Mizzou fans, just because no matter how bad Mizzou had looked this season, or even last season, or even the years before, they would have some semblance of energy. And I think just that second half and just the way Mizzou played was weird, just because, and kind of shocking that there was so little energy, there was so little, I guess, motivation, you could say, out on the court. And I think that was a source of frustration for Conzo last night. But like you said, Blair, it's only one game. I think people were looking a little too far ahead in terms of winning the SEC talk. Maybe Mizzou sneaking into a 2 seed. I think at this point, they're probably a 4 seed, and if they keep this, if they play like that once or twice more, they can even go to a 5 seed. But overall, though, I think you don't overreact to one game, just like the Tennessee game, right? Mizzou has bounced back plenty of times already this season, so I think you just kind of reset a little bit and see what Mizzou's effort level is like. Luckily, it's a rally for Ryan game on Saturday against Arkansas, so hopefully that'll just be a little extra juice for Mizzou come Saturday.
And like the Tennessee game, the loss earlier in the season, Missouri had a chance to avenge that and did. They'll have the same opportunity against Ole Miss, I believe. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I do believe Mississippi comes to Columbia toward the end of the season. So, so who do you think Conzo was talking about? I've got the box score in front of me, and I watched the game, and I've got, I had my own thoughts. As the second half was unfolding, I'm just going, what is going on here? Where is the, where's the energy on the defensive end? Where's the shot challenging? And but who do you think he was talking about?
Yeah, I don't want to just throw kids under the bus at the end of the day. We are talking about college kids, and I get it. You can have bad days, but I just, you look at the box score, Blair, I have it pulled up too. And first of all, you're impressed by Drew Smith and his 3-point shooting. You're impressed by what he did last night. You know what? I think I've said this over and over. I don't think he's the best Tiger and that he has the best ceiling, but he's the most consistent Tiger. And that's not even close, I think, just because I believe that was a 9th straight game of double-digit scoring for Drew. And his 3-point shooting, 5 of 9, is obviously splendid. But To answer your question, I really do think it comes down to Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman. I mean, Tillman only had 4 field goal attempts, and I remember early in the game, it was I want to say like midway through the first half, I was like, huh. Jeremiah hasn't been getting that many touches. What's up with that? They should feed him more just because they shot so many jumpers and 3-pointers to start. And I was like, I don't know what's up with that. And that was midway through the first half. And I looked at the box score and I was like, 2 for 4. That's not great. You want to get Tillman a little bit more involved, but maybe he gets it going. You flip to that second half box score. He didn't attempt a field goal. He went 0 for 2 from free throws. And he only had 1 rebound. That can't happen from your senior big man. And I think Jeremiah Tillman will agree with you. At the end of the day, and I'm sure he's heard it from the coaching staff, and we've seen that motivational style tactic work. Actually, I remember Konzo kept going back to that Bradley game for Jeremiah and halftime, and Jeremiah just wasn't playing well, and obviously he had that great second half, including the game-winning and 1 basket, and it's just, you look at the box, so you look at the effort, and you see he only played 9 minutes in the second half, and you just kind of feel a little bit disappointed. Obviously, 1 bad game, like I said, doesn't make up for a season. And Xavier Pinson Konzo said it himself, he just wasn't attacking the basket as much. You'll have a night the thing about Pinson is that you'll have games like the TCU game where he's on fire, but you also have these games against Ole Miss where he goes over 5 from 3, 3 for 11 from the field, only 6 points, and he seems quiet, but at the same time, it at least feels like you notice his presence on the court. I want to say, you notice the bad with the good, but yesterday just felt like there just wasn't that much energy, and then the broadcast, going to Pinson on the side on the bench, looking just super frustrated. You just don't see that out of Pinson as much. I think, and those, I mean, when your top scorers are Drew Smith, Xavier Pinson, and Jeremiah Tillman, and only one of those guys shows up, that's a hard way to win. And even Javon Pickett had 10 points, but he didn't do much after, I believe, his 10th point. He was kind of stuck on that mark for the rest of the game. So it was just a lot of, I think, disappointment. Not to say everyone didn't play hard, but at the end of the day, it was just so jarring to see how, how just quiet Mizzou looked, just because no matter, even if the shots weren't falling, Mizzou had always at least played hard on defense or played hard elsewhere on the court, and none of that was there on Wednesday.
Yeah, and look, I like when a coach gets mad after a game and does it publicly. I do, because that means a couple things. It can mean a couple things, and I think in this instance it means he has great expectations for this team, and and it was an unacceptable performance, and he's getting a message through to his team through the media. So I think it's a great thing, and you can't have any opponent shoot close to 60%, which is what I think 57% is what Ole Miss shot last night, and they were just on fire. And that second half, there was nobody could step up and stop the onslaught that was happening. And so anyway, I kind of like what he did, and I think that'll serve Missouri well down the stretch. Okay. Souichi, I got a question for you. I got 2 questions. They're variations of the same. I want you to answer them kind of briefly here. So the first question is, when Missouri plays well, this happens. Well, it's not a question, really. It's more of a fill in the blank. But when Missouri is playing well, this is what happens. So what happens when Missouri is playing well?
Is this like an offense-defense thing? Can I get a hint?
No, I want your. I need your expertise on this. When they've been at their best this year, beyond the obvious reasons, Tillman's development. I think Pinson has done a great job, sort of assuming the controls of this team, being the pilot. But I don't know, when I see Missouri playing really well, I think they're getting contributions from a lot of people, and when I didn't see a lot of that last night. So you've seen them as much as anybody and been in, covered all of their games. What am I missing with Missouri when they're at the top of their game, when they get a 20-point lead on Alabama with 6-7 minutes to play? What have they done?
Yeah. Well, Blair, I thought this was I thought you had a very like a super specific stat for me, so that's why I asked. Thought it was like a guessing game, but yeah, that's a good point. My initial reaction actually on that same day was I actually thought you were going to point to the fast break points because Mizzou had none last night, and I think that's a little unacceptable, especially after 20 fast break points against Bama. But yeah, Blair, that's a great point you make, and that's the thing that I've been kind of fascinated by this team in the sense that you can have Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman score 12 combined points, 6 apiece, and you can still weather that storm just because you have so many guys. Usually in that instance, you'll have Drew and maybe a Mark Smith going off, and then you have a Javon Pickett adding his own 10 like he did, and then you have a Kobe Brown doing his thing. And I think Kobe played okay last night, not his greatest game, and I think he'd admit that. And that's the thing, you didn't get that too much last night, and I think that was essentially the downfall too. And then the fast break points, I think, goes back to the defense. And I wrote about this just because all of Mizzou's miscues, it felt like last night, started on the defensive end of the court. And just because when Ole Miss, and Blair, I remember tweeting this out yesterday just because I was so shocked because Ole Miss came into the game, the worst 3-point shooting team of any power conference team. And that includes, the power 6 in college basketball's case. And people were like, "Oh, it's so typical of Ole Miss to hit their threes against Mizzou. Our luck." I saw a lot of that from Mizzou fans. At one point when I tweeted it out, Ole Miss was like 12 for 14 from twos. It was like 8 for 9 on twos or whatever at some point in the game. And that percentage is maybe a bit misleading, honestly, just because Ole Miss kind of missed a few shots down the stretch when the game was already decided. So it really came down to, I think, just the defense, and that affected the fast break points too, just because when you're constantly having to inbound the ball because Ole Miss keeps getting points, you can't push the pace. I mean, you can kind of have a half fast break at times, but it's just not the same as when you get a long rebound, or as Xavier Pinson gets a long rebound from a 3 and then can go flying down the court and all of those things. So I think it started on the defensive end of the court, like I wrote, and it just kind of permeated through the rest of the squad. And I really think that lack of energy stemmed from there, which is, I think that's the frustrating thing for Mizzou fans. You have such an old team, and you hope that they would be a little bit more consistent, but obviously we haven't seen that this season. And it's just one of those things where you're a little worried going into March and in the NCAA tournament, just because one bad day from an Xavier Pinson or Jeremiah Tillman, and you're sitting at home. So that's just maybe something to kind of keep in mind for the stretch run of the SEC schedule.
No doubt. Tillman gets a second foul before the first TV timeout, and you're thinking, "Oh, here we go." It's so the second part of this was when Missouri's playing poorly. What happens? And I think you've covered both of them very well, by the way. So, okay. So listen, Souichi, I think this is a Missouri team that can play into the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. I think when we've seen Missouri at its best, this is a team that can be anywhere from I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 seed, and 2 is the high, the upside, the highest, the ceiling, and 5, 6 seed would be the low point right now. But I see them with the ability, just what I've seen as a body of work, to be able to win a couple of games and then get to the second weekend, and you take your chances there. You're a Michigan State guy. Your team always seems to get to not only the second but the third weekend sometimes. But
I don't know about this year.
No, I don't know about it. I don't know about it either. But you at least you know what it looks like. Are you with me on this? This is a team that can get to the second weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you will see Mizzou be at least a favored seed going into the second week, or to get into the second weekend. I think that's a 4 and above seed. Blair, I really, 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 really think Mizzou should do. Obviously, they are going to do, but I think they should do everything in their power to avoid the 5-12 line that we know is so dreaded in the NCAA tournament. Even the 4 seed, I mean, there are teams like Grand Canyon or some mid-major that's going to come out and be really dangerous this year. And it's going to be a little weird because of COVID and everything. It's going to be a little weird because everyone's in the same, same venue, or at least geographical area in Indianapolis. And I think Mizzou fans, they were looking ahead, like I said, to the 2 seed, but I think if Mizzou can make a run, and this is still very much so in the works, obviously, especially when you're 13-4 and how, all the quality wins you have, I think they have the opportunity to get up to that 3 seed area. And I think that's when you start maybe feeling a little bit more optimistic. Obviously, you can do that in the 4 and 5 seed. I just think in such a weird year, it's going to be, I truly do believe it's going to be some random mid-major. It's going to be, Ken Palm and Bart Torvik and all the stats our friend Jesse Newell loves. Like they're going to sneak in as like a double-digit seed, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh no, of course Mizzou has to face them." So it's just one of those things. But I do think they have the weapons to absolutely get into another Sweet 16 for Conzo Martin. Obviously, he made one when he was with Tennessee, and I think just it helps. I think when you can win in a variety of ways, and I think we've seen that with Mizzou, and that's kind of the great mark of a good tourney team, right? Blair, is that they can beat you inside with a Jeremiah Tillman. They can run it down your throat. They can occasionally get hot from three, or they can kind of methodically beat you depending on the game plan, right? Because they can run up and down against a team like Arkansas and do that better than them, or a team like Alabama. Like Mizzou played better than Bama on the fast break, which is supposed to be Bama's bread and butter. And at the same time, they can kind of slow it down against a team like I believe like a South Carolina or something like that. So obviously South Carolina's not a good team, but when you can win in different ways and you can play essentially different styles between halves, like the Kentucky game, like that shows me that you have the experience, you have the depth to just be able to do something like that. So I think you feel great as a Mizzou fan. You're going to make the tournament at this point, unless you go on with some insane losing streak, which I don't think is going to happen. It's at the same time though, you just cross your fingers and hope that you don't have a game like Wednesday where two of your three best players just essentially kind of disappear. If Pinson, Drew Smith, and Jeremiah Tillman played, up to their potential, Blair, I truly do believe, Mizzou could make a Final Four run at it. But that's a big if, as we've seen. It's college basketball is a fickle thing, and you never know what happens in March, which is kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah, listen, just play up to their scoring average. That's that could do it. And I also, not to mention the experience of this team and the age. It's as we said, Missouri was built for this season because of its experience and age, and I think that'll serve them well also when we get to the NCAA tournament. So I'm asking you these sort of overreaching questions, Souichi, because this will be the last time that we talk to you as a Missouri beat writer for the Kansas City Star. So tell us where you're going. And then let's chat a little bit, just for a few minutes, about your experiences covering the Tigers for the Star.
Yeah, so Saturday is my last game, the Mizzou versus Arkansas game, Rally for Ryan. Kind of a cool way to go out.
Sure it is, yeah.
Boston. I won't disclose where exactly, but I will be in Boston. I will be 2 miles away when Mizzou football plays Boston College this fall in football, just because my apartment is 2 miles away from the Boston College Stadium. We were talking about it offhand, but former Mizzou beat writer Alex Schiffer, who is now on the East Coast, would like to go to that game with me. So we'll see. We'll see if the stars align. But yeah. It kind of happens suddenly, but I'm sad I can't be on Sports Beat KC anymore. But I'm hoping I can make a guest appearance on the line when something Mizzou happens or something KC happens, and it has to do with Boston.
It's been known to happen. We've had former Star reporters on Sports Beat KC. So, well, you're going to be missed, Souichi. I enjoyed working with you, and even in this crazy COVID times, I didn't get to Columbia as much as I wanted. You didn't get to Kansas City as much as you wanted, but we did have this, right? We were able to chat weekly and almost weekly during the football and basketball seasons, and I've really enjoyed that and getting to know you. And you did an outstanding job covering Mizzou, and you'll be missed.
Yeah, it was crazy. Just I keep telling all my friends, it's more than half my time at the Star has obviously been during the pandemic, but even when it wasn't during the pandemic, Blair, I just felt like there was something going on the Mizzou beat. This feels like an eternity ago, but when I showed up, the biggest news story was the NCAA infraction stuff and the appeal and all that stuff. And that kind of hung its head over everyone. And then I remember one of the craziest weeks of my life, that news dropped on that Monday, and then Mizzou was playing in the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City, and that was crazy. And then Mizzou went down to Arkansas to play the Hogs down in Little Rock on a Friday, on Black Friday, and then by that Saturday, Barry Odom was fired, and then here I am, little 22-year-old me, a month into the job, and I'm on a coaching search, and then then it was basketball season, then the pandemic hit, so it was a lot. I had a lot of fun. I think Mizzou fans, I feel there are only a few fan bases, Blair, and I tell people this all the time. There are only a few fan bases where they'll complain about being cursed and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Vikings fans, for some reason, come to mind because I did an internship in Minnesota, and Vikings fans will complain, and I'm like, you guys don't really have it that bad, especially after the Minneapolis Miracle. My long-winded tangent of that is to say I truly do believe something's up with Mizzou in the sense of the bad fortune and the weird timing and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's what Mizzou fans want to hear, that your suffering is justified, but whenever I hear my good friends and I have many good friends from Mizzou alums just because I'm in journalism. Whenever they complain, I always kind of pat them on the back and say, you know what, I understand what you're talking about. But I'll obviously extending time on the beat between Konzo's team and Eli Drinkwitz and all that. I'll be following along from afar. Maybe go to a game this fall. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Picking your brain, Blair. Picking Vahe's brain. Picking Herbie's brain. I love Herbie. He's I will forever be a great American because I got that blessing from Herbie.
Right. Yes, you will. All right, Souichi. Safe travels and best of luck in everything.
Thanks, Blair.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners: unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Gary Bedore and Jesse Newell are with us talking KU basketball. How you guys doing today?
Good, thanks.
Good.
So we're in this odd place, right? It's Friday. It's the only day of the three that Kansas isn't playing Iowa State. Jayhawks pounded the Cyclones last night at Allen Fieldhouse, and are about the time we're recording this, they're gathering over in Lawrence to jump on a bus to head up to Ames to play Saturday at Hilton Coliseum. So not only are they playing twice in 3 days, I noticed, and I didn't know this until this morning, the game on Saturdays in the afternoon. So they're going from Thursday night to a Saturday afternoon situation. Jesse, how rare is something like this? How unusual is it to play a team twice in a matter of days?
Well, yeah, in college basketball, it's really rare, especially for Big 12 teams. I know some of the conferences, Ivy Leagues, have been doing this for a while now, but you don't see it very often. The game notes for Kansas said that it's happened twice in the Bill Self era, both of those when KU's played a team in the season's finale and then played him in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Even then, you get a little bit of a break in between. But what's so funny to me is that it is crazy rare in college basketball, and Bill Self's taking a lot of questions about it and how you handle this and how you do all these sorts of things. And yeah, in the NBA, which is one level up, the very same sport, I mean, that's the entire postseason. You play a team 5 times in a row or 7 times in a row or 4 times in a row, and that's how they determine a champion every single year. So it is kind of funny for a guy like Bill Self. He keeps getting asked these questions about how do you deal with playing back-to-back games against a certain team, and kind of in the back of my mind, I think, well, he needs to figure it out if he ever wants to coach in the NBA, because that's going to be something that he'd have to face if he made the playoffs every single year.
Exactly. It's not the same thing, of course, but it reminds me a little bit of the way the old Pac-8 and Pac-10 used to handle their basketball scheduling, where UCLA or USC would go up to the Washington schools and play Washington State, just trade off and always be on a Thursday, Saturday. It's not the same opponent, but it's kind of the same concept. And I always thought that was smart. It was, save on travel money and that sort of thing. So anyway, I don't think we're seeing we'll see this as the wave of the future, but it's just meeting the conditions that are presented to teams and colleges this year because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. But like I said, the first one of the series is in the books, and Gary, Kansas played really well. And let's just chat about the big win. I don't have the score, 97-64 maybe, or 94-67, something like that. And one of the more decisive victories of the year for KU. And it marked the return of Bryce Thompson, and that's a good thing for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, KU beat them by 33 points. The big stat, I would guess, might be threes. KU made 12 out of 26. Iowa State only made 5 out of 25. So if you're Bill Self and worried about the rematch, you flip those stats, and on Saturday it could be a different game maybe. Bryce Thompson had 8 points, 6 the first half. He looked really good. He just looked like he belonged. He looked so good that Self kind of went to a 7-man rotation and said after the game he feels pretty comfortable maybe in the future going with 7. So that would mean only 2 subs in Lightfoot and Bryce, with Harris winding up playing about, I think he played 9 minutes last night, but most of it was at the end after the blowout had happened. So I'm sure they're happy to get Bryce Thompson back. He can play a little point guard and give Garrett a rest, and he's got a nice little mid-range game, which he lost for a while before he got hurt, I guess. But all in all, Self had to be happy because the offense looked a lot more fluid and the defense was fine.
And it's easy for the offense to look fluid against an Iowa State team that hasn't been good defensively this year. Not a good defensive team or rebounding team for that matter. But Jesse, it's funny. So I'm watching the game, and it was the last, I don't know, probably 5 minutes of the first half, and Iowa State was coming down and jacking threes, and KU wasn't taking much time on its possessions. And I was thinking to myself, God, this is an NBA game. and then I accessed my KansasCity.com account late last night, and that is exactly what you wrote. But you meant it for the entire game. I just thought for about 3 or 4 minute stretch there. But same thing, right? I mean, it was basically volume shooting for both teams.
Yeah, it was very few turnovers. And for Kansas, it's kind of been this stretch of two games, and then this game against Iowa State where they look completely different offensively based off whether they turn the ball over or not. Tennessee and Kansas State, you had 7 turnovers in one, 6 turnovers in another. And I know the Tennessee game got away from them, but as Gary mentioned, the 3-point shooting kind of got away from Kansas in that game where they attempted a bunch of threes and didn't make many, while Tennessee just basically hit everything that they looked at. And then the next 2 games is West Virginia and Oklahoma State, where they complete opposite. KU was turning it over all over the place. And for this particular Kansas team, I think you kind of look at this like a scale. You know what I mean? With certain coaches, you think like Lon Kruger, they want to get shot volume up. They don't care as much about shot selection, but they are going to have efficient offense because they're just going to get an attempt every single time they go down the end of the floor. And that's can be a good way to play. For Bill Self, the trade-off has always been his teams have turned it over a little bit, but that's because they get easy baskets. They throw it to their big men. They get post seals. And okay, if you get 2 easy baskets for every turnover, your offense is really good. You know what I mean? So you can kind of sacrifice that. The difference with this year's team is KU doesn't have Udoka Azubuike, and they don't have good passers on the perimeter that can even throw guys open very often. And we've seen that throughout the course of the year. So for Bill Self, I think it's kind of a fascinating equation because I think for this Kansas team, if you're not going to get the easy baskets, you shouldn't try hard for the easy baskets. You shouldn't force yourself into bad situations that get you into turnovers. It would be better to play like Oklahoma. It would be better to just go down and be like, okay, David, if you get a good shot, take it. Ochai, if you get a good shot, take it. Hey, Christian Brown, you're a good 3-point shooter. If it's semi-guarded, take it. You got a chance at making points, and then you have a chance at the offensive rebound as well. KU's been a good offensive rebounding team. So I think this KU team might need to flip a little bit the way that Bill Self normally plays, because obviously playing the easy baskets when you have Udoka, Azubuike, and Devon Dotson's a great way to play, and you can sacrifice some turnovers for those. This year's team, I just don't know that it's worth it, because they're not getting those easy baskets anyway. You might as well fire them up and give yourself a chance.
Yeah, even if it's coming early in the shot clock too. Even after, one of the hallmarks of Kansas is they, why take that shot, 10 seconds into the shot clock if it's available, or something better a little bit later in the clock. So, but Gary, Jesse makes the point about, no Doak, but David McCormick has, good things have been happening with David McCormick here lately. He's scoring. He's getting a few rebounds. I think if maybe the closest thing to an all-conference candidate KU has. How do you think he's been playing?
Pretty well. Last night he had foul trouble early, so his stats weren't looking too good. So Self said he wanted to keep him in, even though there was a blowout, to make sure his confidence was high going into the rematch Saturday. But he had 12 and 6 in 18 minutes. They'll take that when the other starters all had good games. But he's had really good numbers lately, and I was thinking about that too the other day, that I wonder if he's going to get all league, if he'll be the guy. But it'll probably be Ochai, but who knows? But I think Bill has said that he's pretty happy with his play of late.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think in terms of in previous years, certainly last year and almost every year before that, because Kansas was at the top or bearing down on number one in the Big 12. You play the seed projection game. What a 1 or 2, where would they be? They're not going to be on the 1 or 2 unless something crazy happens here in the last few weeks of the regular season and in the conference tournament. So what's the NCAA tournament seed speculation for KU right now? Has anybody looked at it pretty closely?
Well, I know our Pete Gradoff wrote about it earlier this week, where there was one mock bracket that had from CBS Sports and Jerry Palm that had KU as a 7 seed and Missouri as the 2 seed in their region. So you want to talk about potentially fun things happening, that would be a potential fun thing happening in the NCAA tournament. This is the discussion you have, Blair. It's so, I always get in this with my AP poll vote, but it's best team or most deserving team. So for Kansas and Missouri, it's kind of the different ends of the spectrum a little bit, because Missouri has a great resume, but the underlying numbers don't really love them. Whereas Kansas has a good resume. They're sort of in the same boat as Missouri, I guess. The advanced numbers like them more than they like Missouri, but not much more so. So those teams are kind of on even playing ground. I would guess right now, if they played on a neutral court, they'd be about a 1 or 2 point favorite. But you can kind of approximate this with some of the resume measures out there. Wins above bubble is one of the best ones to look at. And right now, KU is 18th in that one. So you project them about a 5 seed if you're looking at that particular resume measure. Like I said, CBS Sports earlier this week, before KU had a couple victories, had them as a 7 seed. So yeah, somewhere around the 5, 6, 7 range for Kansas right now. Ability to play their way up, obviously, with the tough last 3 games they have in the regular season. But as of right now, they still have some really good wins. They still have wins over Creighton, at Texas Tech. The Oklahoma State win is going to continue to look good. Home against Oklahoma. So there are still some positive things with KU. They're not even close to the bubble. I had mentioned, somebody talked to me about that last week. I was like, don't even start that talk. That's not even a conversation with Kansas. That's not where they are. They are safely into the tournament, but they are a seed that they're not used to being. And so that's kind of the reality situation for Kansas right now. They're jockeying in somewhere that mid-range where you're looking at potentially playing a number 1 seed quicker than you would like to.
Okay, we'll get into that topic in a bigger way over the next couple weeks, but I kind of like the idea of a David McCormick, Jeremiah Tillman matchup in the NCAA tournament. So, okay, hey, for Jesse and Gary, thanks for spending some time with us, and we will talk again next week. That'll do it for today and this week on Sports Beat KC. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rose, and Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Tip of the cap to Souichi Terada, Jesse Newell, and Gary Bedore for stopping by and talking college basketball. And best of luck to Souichi as he begins a new chapter in his professional career. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we have another deal for you. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news features, commentary, and analysis. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, you send me an email, bkirkhoff@kcstar.com. I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like Sports Beat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Monday with another episode.